Hello, this is Montrose Makerspace today for January 22nd, 2015. We started the morning by going over to the Montrose High School to participate in the design review for the PAX project. That's the Public Arts Experience project that the students are working on as a combination of engineering as well as art, and they're tied into the STEM program there at the high school. So I met Brian Simpson over there about 10:15. I talked to two classes. The first one went about an hour and a half, and then I had a half an hour break for lunch. And the second one went for about the same, and we made it all the way through all the letters. And so let me see if I can get this to work here. So here's like one of the designs. This is for the R. Sorry about it. I told you a couple days ago my printer died, so I don't have a print on this. But this is a sprocket design that uses two sprockets, and they're linked together with a chain. So this is 18 inches here, at 12 inches here by 18 inches this way. So this is something that this is an example of their work for this project. They're all very different. I was very surprised at how complete they were in terms of the meeting of the design requirements. They were all very, very well prepared and how they were going to meet those requirements, and they were able to defend their designs, and it was a good experience. We're going to they basically got all the way through the design process, so now they're going to look at doing the fabrication. On February 10th, several of us are going to go back over and have a fabrication review where they're going to collect all their parts together, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how to best do the fabrication based on what they were able to collect in terms of their supplies. Because remember, 50% of their supplies have to be from recycled materials. While I was at lunch between the two classes, I called Grady at Action Agendas, who's a printer in Grand Junction. He came down about 2 weeks ago and went on a tour and offered to print our trifolds. And so he gave me a quote that I really couldn't pass up. So we ordered 200 more trifolds. And he had his art department go ahead and make some revisions for that. So I looked at the revisions and approved one of them, and we're going to get those on Monday. He also said that the Makerspace in Grand Junction just received a grant for $25,000 to buy a laser cutter, and he wanted my recommendation on it. I haven't really done a lot of work with that, but Rob has, and so I connected Rob with Grady and let Rob and those two kind of talk about the current state of laser cutters and what would be best for the Grand Junction Makerspace. What's next? I have to go to Albuquerque to meet with a customer of mine on the 3rd and 4th of February, and we're going to be talking about my Sol-Ohm project. I did make some progress on it today. In about 2 hours, I was able to. This is the circuit board design, and it runs off this LiPo battery, and it's got a bunch of MOSFETs, and down here it has a TI launch pad. So this thing is working like a champ. I did a little bit of testing on it today. I'm going to go to the Makerspace tomorrow and work with Ross and Bill to actually mount all those MOSFETs in a giant heatsink. But today I was going to measure kind of the thermal performance of it and look at how the MOSFETs do power dissipation. So I got out my little Seek camera, which is a Christmas gift that Rob gave me. So if you look this up, it's called a Seek thermal camera. You go and plug it into your phone, and it gives you a thermal image. So like an example of why I use this, or how I used this in the past, was I cleaned my gas grill over the weekend. I know it's hard to believe that I do that kind of work, but I cleaned my gas grill, and then I took this camera out there, and I looked at the thermal distribution across the grilling surface so I could find the hot spots. So I was going to do the same thing to look at those transistors and see how they heat up. Well, something happened to the camera between the grill and today, and now this camera doesn't work. So that's really bad news, because I got this specifically for this project to look at the thermal performance. But I'll get this fixed, and then the makers I'll kind of loan this out as needed. This is the Android version. Several people in town have the iPhone version as well. I went back over to the Makerspace after dinner. and I met with Chuck. Chuck is one of our super volunteers, and he's going to give a 5-minute speech at Ignite. Ignite's like TED Talks for Montrose, and it's done at Two Rascals, which is a microbrewery place. That's going to be on Tuesday at 7 p.m. So if you are watching this and you want to see Chuck present the Makerspace, you can go over for that. These particular talks are not geared for business promotion, so he's just going to talk about the maker movement in general and throw in the Makerspace at the end. At 7 p.m., about 15 people showed up for our tour tonight. It's very large. And this is actually going to be my last tour for a while. We're going to turn it over to Chuck. So he took some notes, and we had a wide variety of topics. And it went on for actually 2 hours. We had a lot of different people come in and talk about various things from the educational standpoint, from the product development standpoint, from the hobbyist standpoint. Just they're kind of all over the place, like we typically have there. And I got to the point in the tour where I asked the people what they actually are interested in making. And this guy named Doug came in with his wife. And we talked about doing prototype fabrication there. And he says, I asked him what he was going to do, and he says, well, I'm going to do prototype fabrication. So he opened his backpack and he pulled out. Doug's a videographer, and he has this doesn't focus, does it? Well, there we go. So he has this arm-mounted camera platform for a stabilizer, and this is actually a product that's available right now at DougMon.com. I'll zoom in here a minute and I'll show you what this is. If this is going to work here. Okay, this camera is not very good at autofocusing, but you can kind of see that it hooks onto your arm, and what it does is it gives you a lot of flexibility in the way that the pivot works. Most cameras are mount from your shoulder, and this one goes from your arm, so you have all your degrees of freedom by using an arm, and makes it very stable. And then the mount also connects to your chest, and there's like a harness that goes over your shoulders, so it'll hold your camera out here, and then you have full use of your two hands. So Bill Green was there tonight as usual, and I brought him into this discussion, and he said, well, what do you want to do with this? And Bill Green started looking at this design, and this design is a mix of different materials. There's steel, there's plastic, there's aluminum, there's rubber, there's about 6 different things that go on here, and there's machine parts and injected parts. And so Doug he has some more design changes he wants to make, and he wants to keep the manufacturing here in the United States. So he's very much interested in potentially moving the manufacturing to the Makerspace, as well as making a lot of design changes to it. Bill Green is a machinist over there, as well as being an expert in doing fiberglass as well as carbon fiber. And so they struck up a very good conversation about how they could make that lighter, how they could make it ultimately less expensive to manufacture, a little bit less complicated in terms of the way it's put together. And so so this is yet another example. This is company number 6 that actually wants to come through here. That particular product is actually marketed and sold at B&H Photo in New York. He wants to expand the marketing, and he and his wife have a plan for taking the next design and doing a revision on the marketing strategy. And so they heard about the Makerspace through Grady in Grand Junction, and they're very excited about our manufacturing capabilities. Let me see. 9 o'clock, Ross and Annie came in. We gave them an update for about a half an hour. It turns out that there's a steel building very close to the Makerspace. It's been kind of sitting in an open field for quite some time. I guess it's piles of steel girders or something. Anyway, Ross is going to start looking into who actually owns that material, and we may be able to make another building right there on our lot. We have 2.5 acres, and we're not using all that. So if we could build another building, we'd have rooms for classrooms and offices, the video production facility, and that type of thing. So we'll figure that out. This leaves us down to 9:30. Bill and I spent about an hour doing planning on how to do the very first basic operation of safety class, what it's going to cover, how it's going to be structured, where we're going to put the content, how we're going to do the testing, how we want to do the training for the trainers, those types of things. We talked about it for about an hour. There's a few things on WordPress that I need to look into, so we can do the testing part online, and we're going to put all the content on our WordPress site for that also. So Bill signed up on the website, and I promoted him to being an editor there, so he can go in and start creating that content. We can all have it in one location. So I think that's about it for today. It's really late. It's 1:30 right now. I will see you tomorrow here at the Montrose Makerspace today.